Vanessa Smith, welcome to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. We are delighted to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
Vanessa, you describe yourself as an energy guide, and you also state that you're a psychic. And I'm just really curious to see about how you are able to describe, obviously, the vast amount of skills you have and capacities. And how do you describe yourself and what you do?
Well, it's funny because I really don't like the term psychic. I'm so resistant to it because of everybody else's assumptions, projections around what that means. It's like, I wouldn't mind being a unicorn, like the kind of, because it's kind of fun to think of yourself in that way. But this idea of, the crystal ball or what does the psychic see or send me all the good juju. Luckily, though, I think we're really in an incredible time where we're using new language to express how we perceive and relate to and read energy, which is essentially what being a psychic is, I was going to say, depending on what lens or what focal point you have. But for me, the way it works is I think of it as reading energy, which is why I call myself an energy guide. But I also say that I'm an identity seer. That's the title that I like to use because when I'm looking through that energetic lens, what I see is the person who is physically there, whether online or right next to me, an overlay, like an energetic overlay that's an image of them at their optimized being. So it's as if they were optimally healthy, as if they were living their best life, as if there was a deep core sense of alignment that is happening within their
mm,
system, very vital,
mhm,
and specifically what their purpose is and where it fits into the paradigm shift. And so
mm,
that is an identity piece because we may feel this deeper calling to be part of the larger collective shift that's taking place right now, but we might not have the a larger context or the words or the sense of connection to that version of ourself that we feel is inside of us. We're like, well, I sense something, but like who and where and how do I find her? How do I let her emerge? What aspect of me do I need to close out? What stories do I need to integrate so I can start to develop and cultivate and be on that journey towards that optimized potential? And so part of the gift in being able to see someone's identity in that way is because really I'm just reflecting back energetic information. I just happen to be able to see it. And so when people recognize themselves through the reflection that I'm giving them, it creates, well, to me, it feels like almost like a wave, like an ocean wave. It's just this release of what we've been holding within us and around us
mm.
that we feel scared about or that we haven't yet allowed ourselves to say. And so when you see yourself, when you have that reflection, it's just this really incredible healing moment is what I've found over the years. It's just this relief
Mm.
of returning back to this core of who you know that you are. So that's a bit about how I work. I mean, I see this identity that is wanting to emerge, that's wanting to lead this larger calling, and then where it fits into the context. Because it's one thing to see yourself, it's another to know where to apply it. Where do I fit in this incredible time where all of these systems and structures are breaking down, and then
Mm.
all of these new systems and structures are being built. Like what's your role in that? So my people, the ones that I've worked with, they've always felt a calling to be part of, not necessarily, well, there's a little bit of rebelliousness in there, right? Like like a little bit of let's take down the system, But they know they're not meant to fight it per se. And so
Mm,
they learn how to use their gifts and structure their soul's work or their purpose work in a way that actually fits for them. And that's the base of the work that I do with people.
mm. Oh, well, that sounds so beautiful. What a gift you're giving to the world right there. I just want to say that. When you were talking, it made me, I wrote down the word biofield. Is it like you're looking into their biofield, did you say? Or no, not even that?
Well, I mean, technically, I guess you could say that, but it exists as an overlay on top of them. So I actually see
Mm,
the optimized potential more clearly than I see their physical self.
wow, that's really
So
cool.
the energy, and that's the cool thing is we're carrying it around with
Mm,
us,
hmm hmm
right? It's like we always, yes, we do need to go through the physical process of development and engage with the journey of healing, but to know that potential is sitting in your field.
Yeah.
Um,
That healthy version of you that has that purpose, that has that potential is there. So you can see that in the person.
yes.
How do you get them to move to that? That's the question. How do you get them to shift out of their current reality, which maybe is not living their passion and purpose, not living in their healthiest, best version of themselves? How do you help them move into that overlay that you can see, right? You're seeing that
Yeah.
overlay, you're seeing the potential of who they could be. How do you help them move towards that and become that?
Yeah. By actually acknowledging and giving them the space to, to integrate. I feel like integration is really where it's at because we won't allow ourselves to move into potential
Hmm.
if we're carrying something that isn't yet finished, that isn't
Hmm.
complete. And
Right.
so it's like a both and world, right? It's like we have this past version, these past stories, these beliefs that we hold, these experiences that we haven't yet settled in ourselves, while
Hmm.
we're also holding the vision of what could be. Because there's a lot of people I know in the especially in the more pop psychology or surface levels space that talk about like manifestation and just think the positive thought and just be in the vision of it. And it's not that there's not value in that, it's just an incomplete picture. And
Hmm.
so to be able to embody the kind of energy and identity that you are called to be in the world, it requires you to see this holistic picture of who you're showing up as now. And what are the choices that you make on a daily basis. So in many ways, it's actually quite practical work
Hmm.
to do that assessment of what are my choices on a daily basis. And I'm moving towards this vision, but I have some grief here and I have some forgiveness that's sitting here. And there's some pieces around my vitality or my health and well-being that are leaking my energy and leaking my power. And I got to do some correction. So it's very multidimensional in nature, in some ways quite practical and also um, yeah, future and energetic oriented. Did
So
that answer your
maybe,
question?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, well,
Yeah.
Vanessa, yeah. So,
Yes, yes. Mhm.
so using you as an example, because
Yeah.
you've privileged your own intuition, your own knowing in whatever you want to call it, manifesting or aligning with your identity of being a person who lives in Europe. So I am so curious to know about how you came to know that, and then how has it been for you? Like, say, the compare and contrast of what you felt like before you moved, and then what shifted after you moved.
Hmm. Hmm. I'd love to tell the story and I will tell the story, but the story has a bit more gravity to it. I'd like to tell the version that has a little more gravity to it. because
Well,
the story that,
if you're
huh?
comfortable with that, if you're comfortable with that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no
Okay.
problem at all. And it ties into homeopathy, which
Okay.
is,
Oh, awesome.
yeah. So I will say that I've been intuitive all of my life. I've always been highly, highly sensitive and oftentimes didn't know how to make sense of it. And just very driven to find a sense of purpose and a sense of place. And when I had graduated from college in 2000, I chose a job that was definitely not aligned with my purpose. It just was not, um, it was not a good fit for me. And I was miserable. I was truly having such a tough time.
Mm.
And I broke out in a skin rash, head to toe, so intense. I mean, down my throat, in my mouth, near my eyes. I could I couldn't shower or bathe because it hurt so much.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out what to do. And I ended up going to a number of different health practitioners to try and figure out what it was. I went mainstream and I went alternative. I went to a dermatologist and a medical doctor and a live blood cell analysis and, I mean, just a variety, an acupuncturist. And they all had a different context, a different explanation for what was happening for me. And it was such a powerful pivot point for me to say, this is where my trust comes in. Like, I need to be an educated healthcare consumer right now and choose someone who is giving me an explanation that actually resonates, that feels like truth. And I didn't actually do that. I went with the fear. I went with I went with the practitioner that scared the crap out of me, actually. The live blood cell analysis
That
woman.
gets me so aggravated though that
I
the
know.
petitioner scared the crap out of you because I have had been in that experience so many times where people got me to work with them through fear. Like that was how
Yes.
they got me to work with them. They were like, "Oh, every organ in your body is shutting down." I'm like, "Well, can you help me? Because
Yeah.
please help me." Like, because I was
Yeah.
scared. So I that really that one thing just really boils me a lot because it's just like
Mhm.
I don't like when people do that. It should not ever be that way to get people to work with you out of fear. What kind of energy is behind that? Like it's just so wrong. Anyway,
So
sorry, I didn't
negligent
mean to
too.
interrupt you, but I just was like, oh,
No, girl, I feel you. Like that was like my reaction too. And so, yeah, yes, with you 100%. And it was actually one of the reasons why I ended up going to get a master's degree in holistic health education because I thought I want to be part of the wave of people that helps others become educated consumers of how
yeah.
they take care of their health and well-being. So the live blood cell analysis woman, she was showing me on the screen. She said, "Your body is eating you alive. What you have is worse than cancer, and if you don't do $1,000 worth of supplements, you will probably die." I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
"What?" I mean,
This
it was
that should be illegal to say things like that to people. It
right,
really should
right.
be.
Right. So I paid 1,000. I got all these supplements, and within 24 hours, I was in the emergency room.
Oh,
Went back to her, tried to return these supplements, and she showed her my emergency room, and she said, "I'm lying, that I made up the form." I mean, talk about gaslighting. I mean, it was
wow.
honestly so mind blowing and such a turning point for me. But
Wow,
it was
I'm so
after
sorry.
I thank you. It's funny, I haven't told that story for a long time, so it's actually quite therapeutic to
Yeah,
review it.
it
Um,
is. Yeah.
but it was this turning point because, well, one, I still have the skin rash. I got this real lesson in my face of what happens when you don't trust yourself, what happens when you act out of fear.
There you go.
Um, and I went back home and I thought, well, shit, I still need to heal because I still have the skin rash. What do I do? And so I happened to find a little business card of someone that I had picked up at a health food store called her. She's a homeopath, had fire red hair, had this black lacy dress, came into my house with like a stack of 10 homeopathic books and plopped herself on my floor. I mean, it
Oh
was just
my
like a
God.
scene out of
So
a movie.
old school. That is so old
It
school.
was
She
super
didn't have a
old school.
computer. She had her book,
Well,
her repertoire is in her books. Like
it
that's
was
so
2000. It was
wow.
2000.
I love
So
it.
it
That's
was a
not that
while ago.
old. That's not that
I
long
know,
ago,
I know.
though. I love it.
So she sat down and it turns out she was also psychic and medical intuitive. And
Wow.
I didn't even need to say anything. She just started reading me, and I had never felt so seen and so validated in my entire life. And she
Right.
said, okay, go down to the grocery store, get pulsatilla, like get a 30 and just see what happens. And I remember within 30 minutes of taking it, I felt more myself than I had for years. I got down on the floor. I was like crying, just thanking, with my head on the floor. I'm like, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. And my rash started clearing up the next day.
Nice.
Yeah. So that in leading up to how I got to Europe, the journey between, this big change for me, which led to a completely different professional path. I ended up being a massage therapist for 6 years, which is how I met my husband, graduate school in holistic health education, was a wellness coach for a while. And but underneath the surface was this trust yourself, like
Mhm.
trust your gut, trust your intuition, trust your read of energy. And so fast forward 2015, I hear a date in my head. Have you heard this story?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. I hear a date in my head, very specific date. It was April 17th, 2017. And this was the end of 2015. And then I heard that's when you moved to Europe. And we had no conversations on moving to Europe, no talk of travel. We have like a 4-year-old boy at the time or 3-year-old boy at the time. So I said to my husband, I said, I had the funniest thing happen. I heard a date in my head, and then I heard that's when we moved to Europe. And I didn't tell him the date. And he said, that is really freaky because last week I had the same experience and I wanted to share. I meant to tell you and I forgot. And I said, what was your date? And he said, April 17th, 2017. So we were accessing some, the same information in the collective field that we share. And I said, well, what do we do? And he said, figure out how to move to Europe.
Oh
So
my God. I love your husband. That is so great. Like that you're both on that same kind of playing field, that you trust those things and that
yeah,
like that's like a sign from the universe, like that you should do it. Like you should definitely move to Europe that date. Like you should definitely do
mhm.
it. Like that's
Yeah,
beautiful. I love it.
yeah. So I mean, we did that, and uh, we got here on March 29th, 2017. And I was like, oh, we don't have our story. But when we arrived, we had 9 suitcases, our 13-year-old cat, our 5-year-old boy, no jobs, and no place to live.
Oh,
Wow.
So it was a massive trust leap.
Yeah.
And everyone was saying, oh, it's so hard. You're not going to find a place. And I'm like, stop putting your limitations on our lives. That's not your business. And somebody had reached out to us and said, hey, are you guys looking for a place? I've been following, the story that your husband shares because he talks more than I do in certain situations. And so she reached out and she had like 90% fully furnished in our price range, family friendly neighborhood, close to downtown, everything that we were looking for. And she said, I would normally do the job contract and the credit check. And she said, I really hope my husband doesn't kill me, but I just have an intuition that you guys should live here. And are you interested? And we said, yes. And so we got the keys on April 17th,
There you go.
2017.
There you
Mhm.
go.
You can't
Yep.
make that up.
You cannot make that up. You cannot make that up. And we have
This is
the proof, the rental contract proof.
Wow.
There is no coincidences in life. I really, and I love that. I love that you're just like tapping into all of that energy and that information, that intuition, and oh, it's just that's a great story. So thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how, like you said, you were always intuitive. Like, when did you first notice this as a
Mm.
young child? And yeah.
Mm. I want to say 7 years old.
Mm.
But I remember actually being around 2, and the way the light was filtering in to the kitchen. I remember thinking in that moment, I don't know if I was verbal yet, but I remember thinking, that's God, like the way the light was shining in.
Mm.
Um,
That's
and to
cool.
me, that's intuitive. Like,
Yeah.
to me, intuitive isn't necessarily always getting, loads of information about the energetic field or about what's going on underneath the surface. It's our connection with source and with God, with light, you
Definitely.
know. And so everybody's intuitive. We all have access to that.
Mm. Yeah.
But in terms of more specifics, I would say that I've just always been very acutely aware of what's going on underneath the surface for people. And I just thought everybody did. I was like, okay, I can tell when that person's off, but it was with detail. Like
Mm.
empaths, they sponge it up, they feel things. But for me, I was like, oh, that's exactly why that person is off. That husband is cheating, or those people fight behind the scenes, or those, like, all that person just lost their job. And when I was, yeah, between 7 and 9, I started becoming obsessed with what adults did for a living, and if they were
Mm.
happy, and if they could do anything, what would that be? And I think it's because I could see this other path for them, this path of potential, and I could
Mm.
see their unhappiness and what specifically was keeping them unhappy. And I remember thinking, if we could just have a conversation around where you're unhappy and what you're holding on to so you can let it go and move into this other path. But I don't know if I could articulate that, but I remember thinking that when I was a little kid.
Wow,
Uh,
that's incredible. Most kids are not thinking of that.
I
So,
know. It was that and then playing double dutch outside. Those were probably like my two, or like Lionel Richie or Michael Jackson or something like that.
this makes me think of another question, and I thought of it when you first said the word psychic, and I always wondered this because I'm not psychic. I mean, I'm intuitive more about myself and my family, but I'm not around, maybe a little bit around other people, not like that. But I was like, like if you know something and you know something's like negative, right?
Yeah,
Like in their life, like something like you said, your husband's
yeah,
cheating, or there's a better job, like do you ever say something to people, or do you just keep it to yourself? Or like if they're not like a client of yours, I'm saying. Obviously, if they're a
yeah,
client, you're gonna tell them. But like, I mean, I'm like, do you tell them? Like, I think I would have a hard time holding that kind of, for me, holding
yeah,
that information. And I'd be like, I need to tell you something. Like, even if it was like someone who I knew like kind of as an acquaintance, I would say. Like it would be hard for me to hold that and not
yeah.
share it, I think. So does that happen?
Yeah, that it happened a lot more when I was younger. I have better boundaries now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know the pulsatilla or the carcinosin, those are two that, there's like very loose boundaries with.
Those layers are very strong in me, so I know them very well. So-
Yeah. So having boundaries and it's like I would walk by strangers on the street and I'd like walk through what felt like their trauma cloud, and I didn't just feel it. I'm like, oh my God, now I have like all of their experiences that they've had. Like I just swallowed them or something. That was gross. I
Yeah.
felt like Casper the Friendly Ghost, but I didn't feel very friendly after it happened. I'd be like, ah. So I definitely had to learn boundaries. But for people in my life, um, yeah, yeah. And I think I would just need to I learned very quickly, like anybody who has something that is both a gift and a challenge, um, how to adapt, right? So it's like instead of spilling out information of what I see,
Mm,
I'd ask a question
mm,
and say, how's your brother doing lately? You
mhm.
know, did you know, does he ever walk down by the train tracks? Oh, sometimes. I just have a feeling that maybe you should tell him to take the bus instead. Because I'm like, we'll get a vision of him being like hit by a train or wanting to walk in front of a train or, whatever it is. So,
Wow.
uh, yeah, so really honing the communication and being able to deliver that in a way that um, landed, which also is like sticky because you don't want to be responsible for other people's paths. It's like other people, like we didn't come here to have everything go smoothly. We came here for this depth of experience. And for some of us, it's a really rocky ride. And
Do you
I've
believe
had
people?
I've
So,
had to turn down the volume essentially
Yeah.
right,
and
one of
really tune into, is this something that I am supposed to be sharing versus like, or is this something I just need to turn down the volume on because it's just kind of like not my monkeys, not my circus.
That's a really good point because ethically, right, you're trying to hold the container for your clients and you may get a lot of information and downloads, and
Yeah,
it's sort of like a fine line between, what is it that you share, but all of it in service to what it is they're coming to you for. But one thing I was also thinking about in relation to Vanessa's question is that you're trying to help them tap into their knowing, not you just
exactly.
deliver. You're not just
Right.
delivering, here's everything. You do
Yeah.
what you want with it. It's like that must be like obviously you're so highly skilled to be able to do that effectively with your own protection in place, with the ethical pieces, with right, what do you disclose, what do you not disclose, and your own boundaries. And so that's obviously very sophisticated um ability that you have, which I think is so
Yeah.
incredible. And it's a good that you have a framework, like it's born to build the new, like you're helping
Yeah.
people come into their own identity and their own knowing so that they can then bring their right magic to the world. So it takes
Right.
all the pressure, I'm hoping, off of you being the one to
Yeah.
say, here's what I know and here's what, you know what I mean? You can't tell them what to do.
Right, right. And that's been an evolution in my professional work. I mean, when I started doing this more organically, like in the early 2000s, I was open to, whoever booked a session and whatever came up in the session.
Mm.
Um, and it drew a lot because I let the field be so open. It drew many different types into my world that were, it was a bumpy ride at first. I thought, okay, I'm clear this is a gift and I should be doing something with it. However, like, where are the boundaries and what is the container and who is it really resonant for me to work with? And so I'd say, even in the past 5 years, like now I'm at this point where, like, please don't come to me to reveal your purpose. Like, that's not what we're here for. You're already on the path, you're already called, you're already doing your work, but something's not clicking into place. Like, there's something is either not moving with your purpose work, you're not sure where it fits into the paradigm shift. So now I'm really focused on, um, you know, structuring the work, structuring the work so it's in alignment. So they actually are able to develop, like you said, their read of energy. They're able to let their gifts land and let their potential be expressed. And so, though I'm still reflecting back these different psychic pieces, it's much more of a collaborative exchange than a codependent one.
Mm,
And that has been like hugely relieving for me to
Yeah.
not feel so responsible for other people bringing themselves forward. They already need to be at a certain point. Like now I just tell people, I'm like, please do not get in touch with me. I can't do the beginners. That's
Yeah.
just, you already have to have done some of the work and to see yourself and then come to me with the reflection of um, what you sense is out of alignment and what
Mm,
you sense will bring you into alignment for the vision that you have. And then let's expand it from there. Let's expand the conversation from there. So it's a different starting point and much more empowered for both me and and the clients.
so how are you discerning that with who comes to you for clients? Do you do like do people have to like book in like a 15-minute like consultation before, like you decide, like how are you like discerning that information? Because before you said you were too open, you were allowing many people to come in, like all
Yeah.
different people, and now you've learned to put some boundaries there. So how are you discerning that?
The language sets the container,
You do.
right? So,
Okay.
I mean, before I was like, are you stuck? Book a session. And now I'm just like, where are you on the build in your purpose work? What is your purpose asking of you now? And then
Hmm.
break down very specifically, like, this is like a beginner will look at that and be like, oh, like that's a little too much work for me.
Yeah.
So it's within the language of the container.
That's
And
how
then
you structure it. Yeah.
yeah, and if I'm on a podcast, whether it's my own or guesting, I just make it very clear and I reinforce it over and over and over again of who I'm for. So that
Yeah.
seems to do the trick.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like it makes a lot of sense. I get that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the soul's got a big job to do, right? And I've gotten into astrology lately, and I saw that in your thing that you're into that too, and human design and all of that. And I've really taken a deep dive into astrology and connecting it to homeopathy, which has been so fun on flower essences and cell salts. And it's like, wow, this is, I mean, I kind of always liked astrology. I was like, oh yeah, super cool. Like I'm a Scorpio, but I don't always resonate with
You are.
Scorpio so much. Yeah, I'm a Scorpio. Hmm.
Me too.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Scorpios are quite intuitive typically, so that actually makes a lot of sense. And they're a water sign, right? So water signs are also quite intuitive. And I find water signs really do well with flower essences, which is true for me too, because they're more like a higher vibration, I would say, than
Mhm.
homeopathy in a way. And I think that's why. And there people are very sensitive who are water signs typically. I have 4 planets in Scorpio and my South Node. I have quite a bit of
Oh,
Scorpio energy.
yeah. Yeah.
I was taught that that meant that I needed to do Scorpio again a little bit more because I didn't do it so well in the past lives. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But I need more work to learn in this situation. But anyway, I'm curious your thoughts on all of that and how that all that energy impacts us. Human design, I'm a manifesting generator. Like I find all of this stuff so interesting and it's yet so different, but yet so the same. And I just find
Right.
it all so fascinating to keep like learning and all these different rabbit holes with energy. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just curious your thoughts there.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm definitely not an astrologer or a specialist in any of those frameworks, but I
Yeah.
love them because they give us language. They give us a context
Yeah.
to look at our energetic design, just like quantum biology does, right? It's like
Mhm.
we just have all of these different lenses to expand our ideas and the way we relate to energy. Whereas I feel like when I first entered into the realm of energy, one, most people didn't really get what energy meant. They're just like, oh, like raise your vibes. And it's like, yes, but it's a lot more nuanced than that. And so, we have this such an expansive framework now to see energy and to understand ourselves through that energetic lens. So that's really where I place those frameworks. Uh, which reminds me, I've been meaning to binge your content because I've never thought about putting astrology with I know you did one on the cell salts and one on flower essences and Yeah, so it's all super interesting to
I
me.
will
And
say that I learned from a master, Liz Norman, we just heard out on the podcast recently. So
okay,
the information that I didn't put it together, she put it together, she teaches
okay.
it, and then I'm like sharing it also. So like it's not all just me. I mean, of course there are things I come across too as well, but and even like to see like the same things that she's seen that I've seen like matched
Yeah,
together. So I'm like, oh, this
yeah.
makes so much sense. But yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I find too about these systems. For me, it's very validating of what I see energetically anyhow. And I mean,
Yeah.
astrology is more like the archetypal language of energy. It tells a story, whereas human design is more the mechanical aspect
Mhm.
of how your energetics work. And then we've got gene keys, which is more of a frequency journey, right? You know, from going from
I
the
don't
shadow.
know that. I don't know Gene Keys. You
Oh,
know
you
that?
don't?
No,
Oh
I don't
my
know anything
gosh.
about it, but of course I'm gonna look it up and learn about it because that's what I
Yeah.
do.
It's super interesting, especially because they're based on these different sequences within your gene keys chart. And within one of them, it's very similar to the astrological concept of Chiron, the wounded healer, and
Mm,
how you become the master teacher really of the wound that you can't heal. You can help others heal in it. And so Gene Keys is a very similar
mm,
framework where it's called your core wound sphere that actually develops in the womb of the when you're in the womb. The 9 months that you're gestating, that's when that core wound gets imprinted upon you. But
mm,
then it ends up being the what they call the vocation. So how you best serve other people. And so to see it through these different frameworks, to me, it just adds more. It's like adding seasoning to the visions that I already see. It's like becoming a master chef. You know, it's like now it's not just the vision, it's this, the type and the profile and the lines and the all the different astrology pieces together. It's people can see a more full vision of themselves
yeah.
and yeah, have something more tangible to work with because energy is very intangible for a lot of people. And that's been, I think, one of the challenging pieces for me is to be an articulate translator of the images that are coming through or the auditory that's coming through, to say it in a way that is felt, is relatable, is something very specific that people can really hold on to. And so when you have these other frameworks, um, they help kind of put some puzzle pieces together in a different way.
So you
I could say a
integrate,
million things, but I don't want to take it off into a whole other direction of the gene
you
keys.
tap into, you weave in all of these pieces as needed in your work, or how do you fold it together?
Yeah, yeah. So because the ones that are coming to me were really focused on the work aspect of it, so I do look at the profile type in human design. I also look at their big three, which is the sun, moon, and rising. But I also specifically look at their Chiron, like where they are wounded and how that translates into what they're here to either teach or be a messenger around. Because I found that for those born to build the new paradigm builders, no matter what their area of expertise, there's a messenger component or a teacher component because part of the call or the ask of new paradigm builders is to create the kind of new language for these concepts to land for other people. That's part of building a new system is we need new reference points, new language. And so there's always a messenger or a teacher component to that. So I like to look at the Chiron, or the core wound moving into the vocation and how that shows up. There's
Mhm.
also in the gene keys at the very top of the profile, it's called your life's work, in what's called the genius or the activation sequence. And it also translates into their brand. So this little circle that sits up at the top, the little sphere, life's work or your brand, that's the main overarching energy that you're bringing to people. The culture sphere in the Gene Keys is who you're meant to serve. So when people get tripped up on their niche and they're like, ah, I know what I'm good at, or I know how to put it all together, but like, where's the bridge to my people? Like, where are my actual, who's looking for this? And so when you start to look at the culture sphere and then you see how it all matches up together, the brand, the culture, it's this triangle in the Gene Keys at the top. You've got the brand, the culture, and then the vocation. And it gives them a very tangible framework to say, ah, okay, now if I place this as a lens over the purpose work that I'm doing, I can turn that into an offer. I can turn that into messaging. I can turn that into something that helps them really move their work forward. So when you're hitting a pocket where you don't feel as clear or maybe not as confident or embodied in the expression of what you do, it can be super helpful for that.
Mhm. That's so cool. I was looking, I was checking my Chiron. I knew my Chiron was in
Oh,
Gemini, and then I was like, what is that wound again? And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember it. It's the wound of being misunderstood and not heard, and it's in the eighth house,
oh,
which has to do it's very that's very karmic house, right? So there's a lot of that's
yeah,
an ancestral house. So
yeah.
that's probably something I've carried through ancestrally, which is just so interesting. So I was just searching it up as you I was like, I know, have it, but yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, that's something that's cool that you bring that in. I love that you do that because that's an interesting wound. I had I related that wound to when I was younger and not I was told that I had a learning disability when I was younger, and I
Mm,
was told that it was like maybe it was like a not like I'm not good enough kind of feeling like, and
mm,
the teacher was really unsupportive, and my fourth grade teacher, she was really rough. And then the following year, I had this amazing teacher who was really great, and all that was dropped, and everything was fine. And but I always felt like ever since then, I was always trying to prove myself. And I honestly think the podcast is super healing for me, also in healing that wound of being misunderstood or not heard. Right? It's like I think that's why sometimes I speak loudly, or I, get like have that kind of like passion and emphasis in things. Like I think it's all connected. So I don't know,
absolutely.
just brought that up for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I relate to that very much because I have a client who also has the same setup as you, the same dynamic of
Oh yeah.
Chiron in Gemini. And so but she's a communicator, right? She is just excellent, just like you, excellent communicator, very articulate, but
Mm.
often would follow up. I've supported her, or like I feel like I want to say I've untrained her to say, she's like, does that make sense?
Oh,
Did
I've
you
said that.
understand that? Like, or I don't know. Like after you just articulated something so exquisitely, I don't know. Did that make sense? Yes, it made sense. Yes, it made sense. You can
Yeah,
let
I
that
feel like I
go.
do that. That's hysterical.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny.
yeah. And I have
I,
loads in the eighth house, so I
yeah,
definitely
I don't
relate.
have,
That's all the stuff that's underneath the surface, the eighth house. It's all about like letting go of
yeah.
control.
Which is, I feel like a life lesson that I've been learning, like, and it keeps showing up in my life. And Scorpio can
Yeah.
be so controlling also. So, I
Right.
mean, let's be honest. So it's part of that also. But I feel like that's one of the life lessons that I've had to learn, like getting ill. Okay, you can't control it. Like I have to like give it up to faith over fear, and other things have come into my life that keep showing me that pattern of like letting go of control and having more trust. My husband even said to me, "Why don't you trust people?" I was like, I don't know,
Hmm.
maybe because I'm a Scorpio. And I'm like, he's a Scorpio too, and he's more trusting than me. Yeah, my mom's a Scorpio. There's a lot of Scorpio energy in my life. It's
Wow.
very
Wow.
interesting. Yeah. And we're all Scorpios, Mercury Scorpio also, which is our Mercury's are all Scorpio,
Mhm.
which is so interesting. That's so interesting. Come on, your name is Vanessa. We're both Scorpios. You're Mercury and Scorpio. That's crazy. Like I just
And it,
find that I feel like we are drawn to people who have similar energy. Like I had a reading done that was Chelsea Hazlett. Remember Heather? We had her on and she did like a soul blueprint reading, and she's like, you're drawn to similars. You like to be around
mm,
people who are similar. And I was like, well, that related to me when I learned about astrology, right? There's similar patterns. Even my son has a Libra rising and an Aquarius moon, just like me. And I'm like, that's so interesting. Like that these patterns just show up again. Like I just find it. And he's like, I'm nothing like you. I'm like, oh yeah? This is, these are what I think. Like, I'm like, yeah, you're nothing like me. Yeah. But anyway, yes, it's very interesting. Now, you kept talking about paradigm shifting and new paradigm builders. I wanted you to expand on that a little bit for people. Like, what do you see as the new paradigm? What do you see you're helping people build this new paradigm, is what I hear you saying. So there's like some sort of like mission and purpose in the way that you speak about what you're wanting
Yeah.
to do, which I found was really cool. So yeah, maybe
Yeah.
say more about that.
Paradigm shifting. Oh, so speaking of identity, I am now moving into a space where I'm claiming that inner rebel that wants to be more vocal about the paradigm shifting and letting go of that performative people pleasing of let's build the vision, which is absolutely part of it. But there is this rebel of just deeply acknowledging what doesn't work, right? Like we exist within this larger systemic framework in politics, in education, in healthcare, in economy, like in every sector of life. We're watching the breakdown happen right now. We're seeing the holes in the mainstream narrative across all of these different sectors. We're living through the shift right now. It's not coming, we're literally in it. And so it requires something of us. It requires us to choose trust over fear. It requires us to be grounded instead of checking out of our body and being in a more addictive type of state, like doom scrolling. So it's just such an interesting time because I feel like I love social media in some ways, but because of what it's the impact on our brain and our attention, it's
Oh yeah.
dumbed us down to this more one-dimensional state where there's these polarities of people focused on a vision, people focused on the fear, people, it's like we're all in these little polarized group and it's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Like, let's take a step back here so we're not in the storm of everything that's breaking down right now, but we're also not flying off into like multi-dimensional realm where we're meditating for 5 hours a day and like envisioning like we're walking on the new earth, like there's both. We're in both. We're in the old, we are in the new, and we are bridging the gap between the two with our choices every single day. And so I feel like when we talk about the paradigm shift or we talk about being born to build the new, there's maybe an association, a polarized association with it, that it just has to do with this vision or this, being like manifesting and being in this optimized state. And it's like, that's one aspect. It's like,
Mm.
how can we be the most embodied, grounded, holistic, human, real person that acknowledges there's a lot going on and it's affecting a lot of people in a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
and being the center of the storm and building the new. It's a really big ask right now of us just with our presence, right?
Mm.
So that's how I hold the paradigm shift. Generally speaking, I would say like that's the very systems and structures, but the paradigm's also shifting in terms of consciousness, the way that we think about what it means to be human. And then the paradigm is also shifting in terms of energy. Like the energy is shifting. Like we feel that our systems are changing within us. And so the paradigm shift, I hold it as those three different pieces, right? So the systems and structures of this physical world that we exist within, the consciousness that perceives what's happening, and then the energetic systems that hold us, hold our density all together, right? So we're we're great multitaskers as human beings, right? Like our souls that have these cute little human avatars to be able to hold the complexity
Love that.
of and the complexity and the paradox of existing in a time where there's a breakdown, a breakthrough, and a bridge in these three different distinct ways. And who are we and how do we show up to that? And do we tend to ourselves in that process? So that's how I hold it. And uh,
Mm.
yeah, I feel really grateful for that perspective actually, because I think it's really easy to fly off the handle in any of those myriad of directions. Um,
Definitely.
and now's not the time to fly off the handle. Now's the time to actually come into the body and come into our own energy and our own voice and our gifts and hold the complexity of that. To know that, one moment you might be in grief and then the next you might be in like deep, deep gratitude. And uh, yeah, it's a very powerful time to be alive.
Mm. Wow. I love all that. It's so true. We can definitely hold the space for many things at once. And it's like
Yeah.
that's a beautiful gift that we have. And I've seen that in myself over the years. And it's like we don't have to be just one thing. We're so
Mhm.
dynamic, the energy is always shifting and moving. And it's just like it can be both end in so many ways. And we don't have to like pigeonhole ourselves to this one thing or this, I felt that. So I love that. And yeah, and I hear you about Instagram and all the social media and how, it can be really toxic. And that's like,
Yeah.
I tell people, like, if somebody's instilling, if you get triggered or you feel fear or you feel something when you see something, I'm like, just unfollow. Like, you don't need to be having that energy because
It
because
is.
you can curate it to what it is. Like, mine is pretty curated
Yeah.
to like good things, because I unfollow things that I don't like,
Mhm.
and then whatever I watch is funny dogs that look like my dog, you know what I mean? And then it's something that I enjoy for a few minutes because it is nice to have like a little bit of just fun and laughter from these kinds of things, but and then it's also a lot of stuff that I do enjoy watching, like, people that I do enjoy watching. But yeah, I think it's a very delicate balance to live in the world with such fast pace dopamine depletion, I guess is the way to say it, like it's so strong. Like people get lost on scrolling for hours. It can happen. And and it's like, wait, where'd the time go? And I think we have to be really mindful of how we're using it, and how we are allowing it to take up our time, I guess is the best way to say it. So yeah, it's a practice I think that we have to have boundaries around again, which comes back to the boundaries thing. So yeah,
Staying
Yeah.
grounded with nature, I think, is going to be really potent antidote to the getting lost in cyberspace and actually
definitely.
all things, tech or whatever's, coming down the line with the implantables. But you talk about rewilding, Vanessa, and that's been an
Yeah.
integral part of your journey. So what does that mean to you?
For me, rewilding, it's interesting. It's a concept that is evolving. But what I'm finding is going into nature, and it's not just going into nature because it's literally being outside with no shoes on, just being barefoot. It's like I have a bag of dirt in my backyard that if I just need, like if I'm being called to it, I'll just put it on my face.
Oh my God,
Or
I
just,
love that.
I just stick my hand in the bag of dirt, or like if my husband's having a hard time, I'm like, the dirt, like go with dirt right
Go
now.
play with the dirt.
Yeah. So, I think I think it's important to establish that rewilding doesn't necessarily mean you need to immerse into nature, like you need to be forest bathing every day. I
Mm.
feel quite lucky that at this moment I live a 5-minute walk from this incredible forest, which is where I started very intentionally being in a more rewilding type of state. And what that meant for me was not just going for walks, but developing my relationship with the land. And because of my highly attuned energetic read and intuition, I can sense the personalities of the trees that I walk by or the moss
Oh
that
my
I walk
God.
by. And, everyone's like, oh, trees, and like, go hug a tree. Some of them are not that friendly. Like some of them are not, it's like humans. You're not compatible with everybody, right? Like
Yeah.
I remember I walked through the forest one time and I was like, oh, I need to hug a tree. And I was like just idealizing, rewilding in my mind. And then I got a little closer to it and it was like, back off. And I was like, okay, sorry. I was like, boundaries are good. Good job, tree. So,
Wow.
there's just these rewilding is a way to restore your natural rhythm, right? Like we're not meant to be on all the time. We're meant to think of our lives in terms of seasons and our days in terms of rhythm. And so being in nature, even if it is just being barefoot or getting the sunlight in your eyes, like resetting your circadian rhythm. I mean, I know for me, I like to just lay in the backyard and just have the sun on my belly, especially after I've eaten something. I'm just like, do your thing, son. Like, just
I love
like
that.
help me digest. To me, that's rewilding too. And so it's any contact, any intentional development of the relationship that we have with nature because we're we're not a part of nature. We're literally nature. We're just in a different form. And
Mm.
so the journey has really restored my voice and my sense of self and my sense of leadership in a different in a way that feels like it's coming from my body
Mm.
versus my head or my heart. It just it feels different. And I'm so grateful for that because before we were in France, and no offense if anybody is Dutch that's watching this, but we lived in the Netherlands for 7 years before we moved here. And just the level of electric video cameras and chemtrails and electric trains and
I didn't know
buses and
that.
everything. I mean,
Hmm.
Jesus help me. I mean,
Horrible.
it absolutely fried my system. So when I got to
Mm.
France, I was just like, like I just felt like a hollowed out human being. I mean, you can see on the picture of the first day I arrived in France when I took the train from Amsterdam down to Paris, I looked gutted. I mean, just
Wow.
absolutely hollowed out. So the environment truly affects us. And
Yeah.
whether it's the chemtrails or the 5G, and those of us that are sensitive, and so many more are becoming more sensitive, we need rewilding even more, because
Yeah.
it's such
That's
an erratic
nature's the
rhythm.
antidote. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
But you're moving
truly.
to Bordeaux, and then is Bordeaux even less 5G and less chemtrail-y? So is that one of the
Good
reasons you're
Lord,
moving there?
I hope so. I mean, honestly, because sometimes here, I didn't even know because I've also struggled with my vitality here, but nowhere near as bad as it was in the Netherlands. And
Oh.
I found out we literally live across from a 5G tower. I'm like, jeez. And when we were in the Netherlands, there was one that was put right in front of our house. And so, and it just for me, it just absolutely decimates me. So my sense is that with Bordeaux, because of the placement of the water, is going to be particularly helpful for my family. We're all water signs.
Wow. A lot of
My
very sensitive
yeah,
individuals.
super sensitive, super
Hmm.
sensitive. So
You
yeah,
try the flower essence yarrow.
oh, I don't. I'm sure I have it. I have all 38 of the Bach.
Walnut and yarrow can give some good energetic boundaries. So
Okay.
you want to try
I
that.
know we do walnut quite a bit. I'll do the
Walnut's good for
yarrow though.
transitions and boundaries, but
Yeah.
yarrow is also good for boundaries. Maybe it'll resonate. Like look it
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
See if it,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll check it because it definitely affects us and we're missing water. We lived in Portland, Oregon before we moved over to Europe and the waterfalls and the
Mm.
ocean and it's a very different kind of energy. I'm grateful for the time in the Netherlands. It was nice to live somewhere that was neutral
Mm.
neutral as
Mm.
compared. flat in many ways as compared to America, which is like, man, talk about an energetically charged country.
Yeah.
So intense. Good Lord. So it was good to be invisible in the Netherlands. It was good to be neutral, invisible, not have a voice, not wear a lot of color, just kind of sink back into the wall. but France definitely has the culturally it's like feels more alive and real and funny shaped humans and not everybody looks perfect and I don't know it's there's a different kind of not grit but just realness here that I appreciate. So I will miss the forest, but I can't wait to see the red rocks and I can't wait to dunk my ass into the ocean.
I was gonna ask you as a water sign, like so I have a lot of water, like I said before. I cannot, I live on an island. We live on Long Island. I'm like, I could never move to a place that was inland without water, like that I could not go to the beach. Like, I don't know, like that would be like it's like a non-negotiable to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true. I'm like just curious as a water sign if you have that too. Like, I don't know. Like, does it really bug you to not live by water? Like, it would really bother me.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, so there's water there. Then we lived in Nevada City, which is right by the Yuba River, and so we always swam in there. And then Portland, Oregon. So I've always been near water, um, and I think it actually bothers me more than I realize that I'm not near water. But for my husband, it's super. He's a Pisces,
Oh,
and
so he also needs water.
he's really, really frustrated with being landlocked. He just
Mm.
every day he feels uncomfortable in his body. He's like, "Can we go yet? Can we go yet?" So
Can
yeah,
imagine. Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah. Wow. Well, Vanessa, this has been like so amazing. Is there anything we didn't touch on? Anything you want to tell the listeners before we wrap up, or anything else that you wanted to share that we didn't get to say?
Oh gosh. Hmm. We've already touched on it, but I just would love to end on um, for people to trust themselves
Hmm. That's
and to
beautiful.
trust their read of the energy. Like, don't second guess yourself and
Hmm.
really like follow your intuition.
Hmm.
Yeah. Really trust what you're getting right now. Like, discernment is so important right now.
Hmm.
So, I mean, yes, go to my website and see all the things, but if I could impart the actual wisdom and a message that I'd want people to do, it would be that.
Hmm. Well, where can people find you on your website? Tell them where that is too, and your offerings and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you can go to vasmith.com and that will give you the overview of, what I'm about and what I offer. I do have a one-off session. So if people just want to like really get into the depth of where they're at and then just want to work with that. But I also have a 3-month container that is about structuring their purpose work, their soul's work. I recently did create, I'll do a little plug. I recently did create a fun little guide. It's called the Unhinged Guide and Confessional for new paradigm builders who don't want to be trapped by an algorithm. Like they want to follow their calling, and they've got in there, it's just other ways to grow your business that are outside of social media. There's 13 unhinged ideas and 9 confessionals of the things that you really wish you could admit out loud. I just did it for you. So that's on my website. And you can find that at vasmith.com/new.
That sounds
Hmm.
fun. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like beautiful offerings. Well, Vanessa, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. It has been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.